Thank you for attending this year's event, and I hope you have a great evening visiting with friends and getting to know some new ones. This year's video, I'm going to share my story, not because it's special, but to share how God was with me from the beginning of my life, and when I allowed Him, gave me purpose in this world. It starts before I was born. I have 4 siblings, 20, 17, 13, and 9 years older, and my parents were divorced several months before I was born. Obviously, it was an unplanned pregnancy. My mom was asked if she wanted to continue with the pregnancy because of what was going on in her life and the family situation. I was born in August of 1972. During delivery, my mom hemorrhaged, which caused her to need a blood transfusion. It didn't take long before doctors knew she had contracted hepatitis. Here she was with a new baby, 3 kids still at home. My oldest sister was married, a single mom and on her own. For 2 weeks after I was born, I was taken care of by an older cousin while mom received treatments. The care of my siblings fell to the oldest one still living at home. For reasons I will never know, our father did not step in and become caregiver and provider. In those couple of weeks, the doctors told my mom that her treatment was going to be a long process. She would be in and out of the hospital. She probably needed to find someone to care for the baby more permanent. My maternal grandmother offered to quit her job, but mom wouldn't let her. This is where God steps in. My grandmother knew a lady in Evansville. Her name was Nora, and her husband was Ray. We lived in southern Indiana. My grandmother knew her from another family member. Nora had a daycare 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I'm not exaggerating. My mom called her and told her the situation. They agreed on a fee, and at 6 weeks old, without having met before, she dropped me off before going to the hospital for treatments. The courage it took for my mom to do that took all the faith she had. I have no doubt my mom wishes it was only a couple months before she was well and returned home full time. But unfortunately, she was in and out of the hospital for a couple of years. During that time, she tried to work to support her family and get on her feet. During that time, I would be brought to the house when she was feeling up to it and someone was able to help. But really, Nora's home was my home. At some point, not long after living there, my mom was no longer able to pay for my care. Nora's answer to my mom, and my mom made sure I knew what her answer was as I grew, was just tell her to help others when they need it. So at around age 2.5, I was able to go home to my mom's. She had finally gotten back on her feet, was able to establish a home in Jasper, and married my stepdad. I obviously don't remember, but as you can imagine how hard it was for a toddler to be taken from the only home she had known. Everyone thought they were doing the right thing. Eventually, everyone agreed that I would continue to visit Nora and Ray's house regularly on the weekends, all through high school. They were more than grandparents, they were a second set of parents. Their name for me until they both passed away was Baby Lisa. Some of my fondest memories of those young years are any kids that were there on Sunday morning would load up in the big van with shag carpet or the Lincoln Town Car, and we would all go to church. Or on Friday nights, when us kids wanted to stay up to watch Johnny Carson, she never argued, just put down the blankets and pillows in front of the TV when the news came on, knowing full well we would fall asleep soon. Or the hours and hours she watched soap operas and QVC while crocheting some of the most beautiful items. I wish I could tell you that I was a great teenager who volunteered hours helping others, and I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. But God doesn't always work that way. If you believe and have faith in Him, He's got a path for you and has experiences for you to build towards His purpose for your life. So when you look back, you can see He was walking beside you. It'll be hard for some of you to believe, but I barely graduated from high school, was very shy, not involved in anything, and hung out with the wrong crowd towards the end of high school and after. I wasn't a bad kid, just a teenager trying to fit in. The year after graduating, I moved to Indianapolis to attend a 6-month training school, and then moved back to Jasper to work at a doctor's office. One of my high school friends worked there also. She's here tonight and has attended several of these events to support me. On a weekend in January of 1992, while in an unhealthy relationship with a boy I had been seeing for years, and he regularly did drugs, had tried to get me to participate. I declined, but said I would the following weekend. This is where God steps in again. During that week, my girlfriend had been making plans to go snow skiing at Paoli Peaks with her college boyfriend and his roommate and his girlfriend the coming weekend. Well, the roommate's girlfriend got stuck in the snow and wasn't able to make it. Instead of him feeling like a third wheel, I was asked to go along. I told my girlfriend my other weekend plans, and she told me if I didn't go with her, she was never talking to me again. I told my mom I didn't really want to go on a blind date, but she just said, just go, you aren't going to marry him. Well, as many of you know, that boy in that trip became the man of my dreams, Marty Samuels. Literally, one choice changed my entire life. The boy I had been seeing died a few years later of a drug overdose. Marty and I met in January of 1992, married in October of that year, and began our journey. The early years were hard trying to make it as a young couple with a baby. Marty worked 2 or 3 jobs the first 20 years we were married, and he still works 80 hours a week. He is the hardest working man I know. He has provided for his family, made sure our son had experiences and opportunities that neither of us had growing up, and loved me more than I ever deserved. Without him walking into my life, my story would look totally different. Thank you, babe, for finding me when you did. I was hired to work at Sharon Community Schools in 1998 when our son started kindergarten. I've told this story before that Mr. Harris hired me because I was Marty's wife. He was the all-around great guy, and everyone that knew him respected him. I started working as an instructional assistant, moved to elementary librarian, middle school librarian, and then middle school secretary over the span of 17 years. I grew up and learned so much about life and myself during those years surrounded by great people, many who are here tonight. During these years, there were opportunities to serve, love, and help others. I had no idea it was preparing me for a future journey. There were a couple of hard years working there. Many people have a time in their work life that one person can make it hard to show up to work every day. I tried for many months to find another job and went on interviews. And finally, while sitting in one, God spoke to me and said, "Just wait, I've got plans for you." In that moment, a peace came over me, and I knew I just needed to be patient for whatever was ahead. It was not right away, but many years later, Dr. Money approached me about starting a new program in Sheridan that had started in other districts in the county, Youth Assistance. I loved what I was doing and the people that I worked for in the middle school, and it was no easy decision. But I felt this was what God had been preparing me for, even though I made Dr. Money sign a paper that if it didn't work out, I could have my old job back. I took a leap of faith and never looked back. Our county is fortunate to have some amazing advocates that really care about our youth. I will never know how lives were changed by walking alongside the families that have allowed me into their lives. I do know that God had a plan and took all the stages of my life to bring me to this moment in my story. I share this because no matter where you are in your life, God has a plan for you. If you allow Him to guide you and use your story and life to fulfill His purpose, not our own. If you look, God is in this story. Sheridan Youth Assistance is for Him, not for me. Since day one, the community has shown support, encouragement, leadership, friendship, and trusted the purpose. Because of all of you that have been part of creating what SYAP is today, I do believe lives have been changed. I wish I could list all the incredible individuals who have supported me and this program. I'm afraid that if I start naming names, I might unintentionally leave someone out. Please know that my gratitude is beyond words that I can express. I am deeply thankful for each and every one of you. You might be asking yourself, why is she sharing this? When Marty and I were in our late 20s, we had the dream to someday sell our house and most of our belongings, buy an RV, and live full-time traveling the country. So if all goes well, Marty and I will retire in the summer of 2025 and begin our next journey together. This will be my last Denim and Lace as the advocate for Sharing Youth Assistance. Next year, I hope to be able to introduce to you someone that will be able to continue the purpose of loving and serving the youth and the families in the Sheridan community. Being in this position to serve God in Sheridan, Indiana, will be an honor I will never forget. Even on the hard days, I've known I'm right where I belong. At this point in my life, by all of us doing something, there is hope. I'm going to end with this poem. Be the one. In a world full of hate, be the one to bring love to the table. In a life full of sorrow, be the one to spread joy with a smile. In a land full of darkness, be the one to light a candle of kindness. In an age full of conflict, be the one to reach out a hand of friendship. One choice can change a life, which means future lives can be changed. Thank you for allowing me to serve the Sheridan community.